While you're waiting for the stream to start, enjoy seeing the many faces and places of Eth-No-Tec and the communities we serve.
Beyond the wound, choosing compassion. It is our July Storytelling with Eth-No-Tec. I am Nancy Wang.
I'm Robert Kikuchi Ngoho.
And we'd like to introduce you to Dana Sherry. Dana, wave. And also Sarah, who is our tech wizard. She should be here instead of us, and who will be here if you need any support in your own tech. So why did we? So today's event is going to be story, interview, story, and then breakout rooms, and then community conversation. And there'll be a prompt for the breakout rooms, and you can always choose not to be on one if you don't want to, but it should be extremely heartwarming to do it.
And thought-provoking and heart-provoking as well.
Yes. So why did we choose this theme? Well, Dana, as our guest teller, and us, talked about how we were feeling and how the times are they're just killing us. I mean, it's just, between the pandemic and the war, the anti-everything hate going on, the women's rights being taken away, COVID long haulers. It's just so much in the last 5 to 6 years, really. And so we wanted to find a way to help people move away from, or at least give some respite from depression, PTSD, anxiety, resignation, because it's so easy to do that. And as humans, what we need is familiarity, we need regularity, stability, hope, reassurance. So how do we meet those needs in a time like this? And what's the opportunity instead? How many of you found the time during these times to go more into your creativity? Good. How many started gardening? How many found a way to communicate deeply with yourself and kind of figure out what you really want in life now? And then how many of you actually made deeper contacts with your family and friends in your community through Zoom? Yeah. So there are ways to help us get through this, but there's more that we can do. And today's event is about that. So without further ado, let me introduce Dana Sherry, who has chosen a story to help direct us in that direction of compassion, and for ourselves and for others. And she is not only our guest, she's also our friend. She's our soon to leave managing director, and storyteller. And Dana Sherry.
And I'm unmuted. So thank you. Yeah, the story that I'd like to share with you today is one that has really been calling to me to tell it for the last couple of months. And I want to preface a little bit that it's an unusual sort of story. It's the life of a saint. And so that's not a story we tell a lot. It's kind of somewhere in between being a historical story and a spiritual story. And after enough time, it kind of takes on features of a folktale. But it begins in Lebanon in the 5th century with a man who has recently been widowed. And that it begins with that man and with his teenage daughter. And now if this were a folktale, this would be the point where the man would think, that he needs to go and find a widow with a daughter about the same age, and we will be going down that road to find ourselves a wicked stepmother. But this is not that kind of story. Instead, what the man does is he goes to his daughter and he tells her that surely she has seen that they cannot continue as they have without her mother there. Something must change. And he asked her, "What do you want to do?" And that young woman, she looked into her father's eyes and she took a deep breath and she told him her truth. And when he heard what she had to say, her father was shocked, but at the same time he listened. And listening, he came to understand. And when she finished speaking, he said, "All right." And so the next morning they rose early, he cut her hair, she put on her most neutral clothes, and they set out. And they went to the monastery that was outside the city near their home, and they came before the abbot. And the father said, "My child and I wish to take holy orders and become monks." And that is exactly what they did. And so it was that she, the daughter, became he, the monk, Brother Marine. And the two of them lived with the monks until the day came when the father went home to God. And Brother Marine took comfort in the company of his fellow monks. And he also took comfort in the time away from his fellow monks, because he was often given the task of going to the forest to gather firewood. And this would be a full day's journey. And he would gather the wood and place it in the cart. And it was too far to return home to the monastery that night. And so he would stay each time at an inn. And the inn was maintained by an innkeeper who had a teenage daughter. And that teenage daughter had a secret. And that secret began to grow. And it grew and it grew and it grew until it was secret no more. And her father came to her and he demanded to know the name of the man who had gotten her with child. And I don't know why, but the young woman couldn't bring herself to name the knight who was truly the father of her child. And instead she said, it was that monk who stays with us. It was Brother Marine. And the father, filled with fury, went to the monastery and he came before the abbot and he told him what his daughter had said. And the abbot was astonished. And he called Brother Marine in and he began to lay forth the accusation of the innkeeper's daughter. And Brother Marine was shocked, but he listened. And Brother Marine listened so well that he heard not only the words, he heard what lay behind them. And listening, Brother Marine heard that young woman's fear. He heard her isolation. He heard her terrible desperation and need. And so when the abbot came to the end, and he said, "Brother, is it true?" All Brother Marine said was, "I am a sinner, as are we all." And so the abbot said, "You must leave." So Brother Marine left the monastery and he went down to the city gates, where he lived on the charity of passers-by and what work he could find with shepherds. And in time, the young woman gave birth to a child, a son. And when he was weaned, the innkeeper took that child down to the gates and he thrust him at Brother Marine and said, "This is your treasure. You be the one to keep it." And Brother Marine did keep that child and he treasured him. And the years passed and his fellow monks at the monastery, they were watching. And after 4 years had passed, the brothers spoke to one another and they came to a decision. They went and they confronted the abbot. And they said, "Brother Marine, He may have stumbled. He is human, as are we all, but surely he has done penance enough. Send for Brother Marine and ask him to return to the monastery. And if you will not, we will go down to the gates and bring the monastery to him. And the abbot, abbots don't really stand for that kind of mutiny. He looked at them and he said, fine, all of you, go down to the city gates and tell Brother Marine he can come back if he wants to. And the monks swarmed down to the gates, and they brought back Brother Marine and the child, who they say grew up to be a happy young man and became a monk himself. But it is for certain that Brother Marine stayed in the monastery until the end of his days. And when in the fullness of time he returned to God, his fellow monks prepared the body for burial. And at that point they realized that Brother Marine had been falsely accused, that he had not gotten that young woman with child, and that they marveled that all these years he had responded only with radical compassion. And the tale of what he had done spread through the monastery, spread through the city, spread through the land, until finally it reached that woman who was not as young as she used to be. And when she heard what had happened, she went to the monastery where Brother Marine had been laid out for burial, and she fell to her knees and she began to weep. And she wept her sorrow, she wept her shame, she wept her gratitude. And in all of that, she was healed and made whole. And so it is that from that day to this, whenever that story is told, it is called the life of Saint Marine. Thank you.
Thank you, Dana. It really is so parallel with some Buddhist stories as well. So I'm going to now talk with Dana and basically ask, one question, and that will lead to other things, I hope. And that is why she chose this story. Why did it call to her? Because I know she had other stories that she wanted to possibly do, but she chose this one. What is it about this one?
Mm-hmm. There were a lot of things. I mean, obviously, that had a lot to do with the overturning of Roe v. Wade. That seemed very contemporary, but also, I have 2 teenage sons, and so I know a lot of families with teenagers and with young people who are really coming to understand who they are, and that's something that I don't know. I love the support that was shown in this story, and that there are many families who struggle to find a way to support their young people as they're coming into their truth, and so that for me was really powerful. And also, and this is how it segue into other things that in the past I've really been working a lot on tales from Central Asia and the Caucasus, but one of the things that I've been exploring more through COVID is trying to look at my own cultural history, and particularly the Catholic side of it. I confess that it kind of came to me, as a lot of these things do, by realizing that I've been very foolish. I was thinking, there are these wonderful Jewish spiritual stories, and these wonderful Sufi spiritual stories, and gosh, what do Catholics have? And then it's like the light bulb, like, we have our saints. And when I started looking into them, especially the older saints, the stories are wild and wonderful and unexpected, and so go in directions that you don't always think that a Catholic story might go. And so this story, I've been reading through some of the older sources, and this story came up, and then it all came together that it was like, this is the one that really wanted to be told at this point.
Yes, and it's a really rare thing for a father to let the daughter decide what her true passion is. Too many times that does not happen. So, what is your next passion?
So I'm going to keep going with my saint stories and me being me. My favorite way of going really deep with something is to get a graduate degree, and so I say that it means a lot to me to be learning in community, and so I'll be starting classes at the Graduate Theological Union at the beginning of September, and so it is with a heavy heart that I'll be stepping down as managing director of Eth-Noh-Tec. But I'll still get to keep in touch as a board member.
Yes, we are having her be our board member. She'll be wonderful. Right. So already, Dana has a PhD. So now she's going for more. So your PhD is in Russian literature?
Russian history. I have an MA in Russian literature. I really do like grad school very, very much.
And so the next one is in religious studies.
Yep.
Right?
In theology. And it's an interfaith setting, which is really wonderful too. It's all about communication and dialogue and listening, which is really, I don't know, the way that I like to experience. I like to grow grow in wisdom and faith and all of that through dialogue.
Great. Thank you, Dana.
Okay,
Thank you so much. We'll be hearing more from her. Okay, so now it's our turn to tell a story. And again, hopefully it's a story that helps all of us in the direction we need to go in this country, in the world, in our personal lives, and that is compassion. So
we need to do a little bit of adjustment because we're working in a smaller studio than usual.
It's hard to do all the choreographic stuff on a screen. So
the story is from Tibet, and it's an motif of journey tales. And if anyone the geography of the Himalayas, it's very mountainous, and there's lots to be discovered in those realms. And so this story from Tibet. A little side adjustment there. Where's that voice coming from? I'm hearing voices. This story from Tibet is called The Bird of Happiness. Namo, 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 namo. Once upon a time in the land of Tibet, the people asked, happiness? What is happiness? Happiness? Is there ever such a thing? Well, sad to say, there was a time, there was a place where the people had forgotten happiness. Forgotten happiness. Oh, they were a miserable people in a barren land where barely a blade of grass would grow, hardly any water would flow, and the people shivered in their huts as the cold wind would blow. So you can imagine in such terrible poverty that happiness was easily lost. But there were some, perhaps like you, that still believed in happiness, and they believed that if happiness lived, it was alive as a bird of happiness.
Is there really a bird of happiness?
Oh, that was Wanja. The young girl was always asking questions of the pure heart, and she consulted the wise man. Yes, there's a bird of happiness. This far away in a snow-capped mountain peak.
Well, can you see it? Chase it, catch it.
No, you cannot catch happiness. Happiness will only come to you in a quiet moment, only when your heart is pure.
Oh, that's easy.
Not easy. No, not easy, for the bird is guarded by monsters, 3 long-bearded creatures whose icy breath can snuff out a man's life. Oh, many men have tried. Many men have died. Their hearts were not pure.
But if I could only see the bird of happiness, I could tell the people what the bird looked like, and then maybe they would believe in happiness again. I'm going to find the bird. Farewell.
And so, with the blessing of the wise man, Wanda began her journey into the mountains. Higher and higher she trekked, day upon day, into the mountains. And one morning when she awoke, there was a mist that began to lift, and when it lifted, there before was a snow-capped mountain peak. Suddenly, a whirl of snow and dust whipped all around her. When her eyes opened, there before her was a monster with a long black beard.
Oh, long Blackbeard, I'm looking for the bird of happiness. Will you help me?
Yes, Wanja. I will help you find the bird of happiness. But first, a little favor for me. Go back to your village. You have a friend, Lusong. Lusong, your friend. Visit your friend's house and kill his mother.
No, as I love my own mother, why would I kill another's? No, no, do with me as you please.
And so be it. Those long Blackbeard, the wind shot out and magically changed the landscape into a jagged plain, rocks sharp like knives, daggers like stone, 900 miles long, 900 miles wide. Still, Wanja traveled on and on. She walked till her shoes were cut to shreds, till her clothes were tattered ribbons. She crossed that plain of jagged rocks 900 miles and then collapsed on the ground. And a shadow loomed up from behind her with a long brown beard.
Oh, long brown beard, I'm looking for the bird of happiness. Will you help me?
Yes, Wanja, I will help you find the bird of happiness. You look so tired. You look so hungry. I'll help you find the bird, but first, a little favor for me. Go back to your village. Old man Ceylon, he has plenty of food. Steal some for me and poison the rest.
No, as I love my own grandfather, why would I kill another's? No, no, do with me as you please.
Then know what real hunger is. With those long brown beard, the wind shot out and snatched her food pouch and hurled her only food she had, tumbling down, down, down into the abyss of the bottomless canyon. Nothing to eat. Still, Wanja traveled on, and on she walked into the snowy drifts. Her body was aching from the hunger's knife stabbing from within, yanking at her ribs. And she felt something on the snow one day, soft and long and white, and tugged on the long white beard of a hideous demon.
Long white beard, I'm looking for the bird of happiness. Will you help me?
Yes, I will help you find the bird of happiness. But first, a little favor for me. Go back to your village. Lady Baima, the beautiful Lady Baima has beautiful eyes. Gouge out her eyes, bring them to me.
No, take mine instead.
So be it. The wind was so piercing cold. Wanja became blind. Stumbling, fumbling in the world of blackness, rock upon rock, she climbed over boulder upon boulder, up the side of the mountain, rock after rock, till she reached the peak of that mountain with the icy wind swirling all around her, draining her life, her wounds festered with infection and her hunger pangs. The wind was draining her, and Wanja knew she was dying. But rather than let the last thoughts be of the failure to find this bird of happiness, Wanja chose that her last thoughts would be of the people in her life. And with her last bit of strength, she summoned in her mind's eye the warm smile of her mother and her father. And she could feel their love for her right here. And then she began to see the others. Old man Silang, Lusong and his mother, pretty Lady Baima. And she saw the people of her village, and she felt her love for the people right here.
Oh, this is where happiness lives. I am ready to die now.
Suddenly, in the distance, she heard a swirling melody, swirling sweetly, getting closer, growing louder, and something landed lightly upon her shoulder. Your heart calls to me. What is it that you wish?
Oh, bird of happiness, I am dying now, but my people, They need you so much. Will you go to them and sing your sweet song?
The bird of happiness sang its sweetest song for Wanja, and the sweetness of that song seeped out deep into her soul, healing her wounds. The bleeding stopped, the pain lifted, as tears of joy welled up in her eyes. And when she opened her eyes, she could see more clearly than ever before. For there before her was the most beautiful bird she had ever seen. The feathers glowing the colors of the rainbow, this bird began to glow brighter and brighter, and that bird began to grow larger and brighter and bigger. And then Wanda climbed upon the back of that bird, and up, up, up they soared, over the mountains, over the horizon, and soon they could see her village below amidst the barren land. What is it that you wish for your people?
Oh, I wish happiness for the people.
Well, the bird gave out 3 loud cries. The first cry, and the sun burst through the clouds, warming the valley below. And the second cry, and a carpet of green swept across the land as flowers and trees bloomed in all directions. And the final cry, and crystal cool waters gurgled up between the cracks of dry mud holes.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
And the bird and Wanja soared up into the sky, and the bird swooped down, delivering Wanja to her home. Now, the people of her village celebrated in grand abundance. They were never hungry. They were never thirsty, ever again. And they remembered the wisdom of this young girl and her love for people. And they remembered their sufferings and their blessings. But now, most important of all, their own happiness stayed with them here. And that happiness stayed with them here forever and ever and ever and a day, long after the bird had flown away.
So here we are, and I will interview Robert and myself.
Okay.
No.
Take turns.
Mainly, what we'd like to do is, this is my favorite story, and the reason why is because being pure of heart is rare, and it certainly is a most difficult place for me to get to, but it is something that I would love to be able to reach. And so this story, with this pure of heart, where her compassion is greater than any fear could ever be, reminds me that when you're in that space of love and heart and compassion, fear becomes very small, if insignificant, if not disappeared, because you're then bathed in the whole feeling of your heart. How about you, Robert?
As well. I think what draws me to this story is, at any point she could be at the brink of death. The suffering that she goes through, the ordeal, the journey she's on, which threatens her life. But what brings her, what drives her, is that quest, a heroine's journey, a quest for healing, not just for herself, but truly for her community. So that's what grabs me about this story.
So we're hoping that these 2 stories will help you in the breakout rooms. Let's see, it's so hard for us to not have you in our room and see how you're feeling, and if anyone has anything burning they need to say, so that we can, before we go in, get a sense of where you're at. Yeah? Anyone have anything they need to say? Or we could go right into the breakout rooms, because that's where you'll really get to say stuff too. Okay. I don't see any hands raised. Therefore, Sarah will put us in breakout rooms, and this is your prompt. So the wounds that we are talking about have not been personal, but wounds in our in our world, in our country. And so what we'd like you to do, and we'll put it up on the screen, is to choose which wound you would like to address, one that has you feeling a bit resigned, and how that feels. And then discuss how it would feel to go from resignation to compassionate action and healing. So you want to name the wound, because when you name something, it becomes less potent. So how do you want to, discuss what that wound is, how it's made you feel, and how you want to go, and how you could go towards compassionate action and healing. And then what it will take, and are you willing to give yourself that gift of being bathed in your own compassion?
So again, you choose a wound.
And it can be personal.
It could be national, even global, that concerns you most, that you feel most resigned about. And then of course, you name it, and discuss how it feels, and how it would feel to move from it. And then, of course, from resignation to compassionate action, what will it take? And are you willing to give yourself that gift? So, should I leave these questions on the screen?
Well, Sarah said it'll disappear once they go into the...
Okay. So I'm going to leave it here just for like 15 seconds. Look at this and get that in your mind's eye.
And Sarah, is there anyone who doesn't want to be in a breakout room? Then we can, the few of us, if you want, can be in the regular room. Okay.
Okay. So,
Any questions? Good. Let's go to our breakout rooms. Phooey, we were just getting to something.
unmute.
Yeah.
If ever, we can go back for another 5 minutes if people want to, because,
Yeah.
this is not easy stuff.
And sometimes even after the full, after we deliver the event, if you're willing to, we can hang on and talk, because there's lots of conversation that gets stirred up even after the event. So you're welcome to that.
So do people want to go in for another 5 minutes even? No?
If you-
Nope. Okay. So you're all saving the world in 15 minutes?
We all have to
Okay.
do what we can, even if it just seems like a little. I always like to use the analogy of like a pixel on a flat screen, that we're all pixels, and each of us individually can only do that much light that we can. Hopefully, when we shine our brightest, it inspires other pixels to brighten up. But it's the idea that it's the combined forces of many of us shining as brightly as we can to change the picture, to change the way it's viewed, the way reality is unfolding.
And one of the things we need really now is community. And to reach out to someone is going to be so valuable. So, think of someone that you haven't seen for a while, or a sister that you never got along with before. You'd be surprised when you come with a need or a feeling that is uncomfortable, they can really respond.
Yeah.
We need each other. We need each other. That's one of human basic needs.
Yeah. Oftentimes you may be thinking about a person in your memory. Give them a call. I mean, the other thing too is the sense of gratitude that we all. I know many of you come to this place in life where you wouldn't be here if you weren't grateful, and so expressing the gratitude to people really enlivens both you and who's being
Or just
grateful.
what you're grateful for yourself. We would love to have now a community conversation. So if you can unmute yourselves and, kind of launch in with any questions or any insights. So please, let's
Unmute.
create community instead of just little squares.
Put the dog in the other room though.
Good. So I know we all know how to let other people talk. Go ahead, you go first. No, it's all right, you go first. So just chime in right now.
I'm just interested in what wounds people named. You know, and what came to my mind was the intense partisan politic that we're living right now.
The ugliness of it.
Yeah, and the rigidity of it,
Yeah.
and the depth and intensity of it. That's ugly and dangerous right now. So that's. But I'm wondering what are other wounds that did people go to?
We talked about the climate crisis and our concerns about that.
We spoke of the personal wound, the global wounds, the national wounds. And I was, I felt embraced in that room, that there was a balm of compassion just wafting through.
Beautiful.
Thanks, Mindy.
Well, in our room, we talked about hatred toward Asians.
Huge wound. Those are the only wounds? Everybody.
I don't know if Maria wants to share, but she had a very personal one that she shared with us.
Okay, Maria, do you want to?
I talk about a personal wound. My son disappeared last September in the United States, and it was very terrible for me. I think I was getting mad, and I cry a lot. And this summer, suddenly I thought, while I am weeping and crying, my other family is living. So, like in the story, the girl has a commitment with happiness. And I think that if we have to do something in this world, is to talk more about commitment with happiness and peace and love. But the publicity and all the medium are talking always about war, about guns, about suffering, about hunger. And I think as storytellers or people who understand that stories are a great way of transforming society, we must keep a commitment with happiness, with certain words, because we have to be select with words when we talk with people. We have to learn another language, the language of humanity, the language of love and compassion, the language of a better world. And that is a learning. We must learn to be happy. And that is the great learning I have learned in these circumstances that has been so cruel, because my son was getting blind, and that's why we went to the United States. And suddenly, when I returned to Puerto Rico, in like in 2 weeks, he disappeared, and nobody can tell me where he is. So this summer I thought about the mysteries of life, but we must have a commitment with happiness. That's why I love so much that story, because in that story she get blind, but she continued. She has a commitment with her town, her family, with the words, with the people, with the future. And I think storytelling is always a rehearsal of the future. You are rehearsing in the present the things that you are going to do. So I thought
Creating the
what
future.
I learned was that the commitment with happiness.
And that is going to be your commitment of action towards
Yes,
your,
it
yes,
has been.
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Heal the
Thank you
heart.
for sharing.
Thank you.
And your healing will certainly come.
Yes, I have learned to live with that because you know how you love your kids.
Mm.
When a kid disappears, it's like some part of our body is
Mm.
missing.
Yeah.
But I pray a lot, and I think someday I will know what happened. I
Yes.
will know.
Yes.
Yes. Oh, our heart goes out to you, Maria.
But there are a lot of people missing in the USA.
Yeah.
Thousands.
A
Sadly,
lot of people.
that's another huge wound.
And I think about all those mothers and fathers and grandparents.
Mm.
Where are the kids? Where is the people?
Mm-hmm.
It's an awful feeling, but you must continue if you believe. If you have that commitment with life and
Yeah,
happiness.
you have to believe in life more
Yes,
than the death. Yeah.
and that is a way of changing things.
Absolutely. If
Because when
people
you
were
are
happy,
always crying, you cannot change things.
right. And when
No.
people are happy, there's less crime,
Yeah,
probably less everything. So
yeah.
people start caring and being kind. So it makes
Yes,
it's
we
huge.
can search the bird of
Mhm.
happiness.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else want to share any insights or um, anything that you've discovered? Oh. Archibald also had a loss.
There's a lot of loss. We probably know someone, if not ourselves, who have lost family or friends.
Mm.
Well, so if no one wants to name a wound, because we already know all the wounds, really, sort of, the hate, the crime, the 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 environment, the wars,
The COVID,
horrible,
the hate crimes.
yeah, and our politics and the rigidity and the negativity. What are some actions then? What are some actions that you are willing to commit to in order to make your life and other people's lives work better?
Yeah. Mine was derived from watching Asian American storytellers in unity with the Ukraine. I really enjoyed and loved the program. And it came to me so clearly, we can do this
Oh,
too, too. And San Diego, it will have a different look, a different perspective, it'll be in person with the House of Ukraine on their lawn in Balboa Park. So yes, this was inspired from Asian American storytellers in unity with Ukraine. And it makes me feel just a little bit more buoyed.
Like, yes, because there's nothing like doing something that's
Yes.
better than doing nothing. So what she's referring to is that this group, Asian American Storytellers in Unity, we did a fundraiser for Ukraine. We raised over $7,000. Yeah.
Yeah.
So action. What action can you take? What action are you willing to take? Come on. The world needs you. The world needs you. You're here because you know about the world and what's needed.
Yeah, it's a big ocean of resignation, but you want to rise above that. Take your breath of air.
Yes, Eleanor.
I think sometimes it's very difficult to think about taking on the big giant things, I mean, whether it's a small thing like giving money to somebody's campaign, that sometimes makes me feel like, well, I can at least do this and hope that there's a wave that's going to support, the values that I care about. But in this conversation, I started thinking about people who, about loss in a different way, the loss of drifting friendship, that you say, oh, that person was so important to me at one point. I don't even really know how we lost each other, but don't even know if there's any bad feelings. Don't just realize that there's a loss, there's a rift, there's a wound there. And I just thought maybe it's overcoming a fear of maybe something horrible was thought or is being thought, and just reaching out and saying, I just want to tell you how important you were to me.
So are you committed to doing that with somebody?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking about right now.
You want to think about it, or do you want to do it?
I think I want to do it.
All right, so everybody,
That's as close
yay, Eleanor.
Hey. No, we could have you put in the chat room what day, what time.
And get back to us.
Yeah.
Okay,
will shift, yeah.
someone else. Thank you, Eleanor. Someone else. What action are you willing to take? Big, small, it doesn't matter. It's the start.
Can I just share that, Eleanor, you've just inspired me to do something similar. Yeah, I really like when you said just like sometimes you just kind of, for whatever reason, kind of grow apart. Maybe not even growing apart. It's just lose touch and no longer as close or connected as previously. And you've inspired me to try to maybe get up the courage to reach out to a person or two where that's been the case for me myself. So thank you for sharing that, because I definitely have, I think your sharing that has inspired me to do something similar.
Yay, not maybe,
Wow,
right?
Sarah.
Not maybe. Right, Sarah?
I commit to doing that with one person.
Good.
Wow.
Yay,
Maybe
okay.
others, but one. Yes.
Good. Come on.
All right.
As
Mary,
I had shared in my group how my wound was personal insofar as I was empathic to a person who is Jamaican and is in Jamaica and relates to me on the phone or email, and his plight is going on even now. And when I did try to do something about it, for example, I talked to and I wrote to and made calls to various people, especially church higher ups. They really don't understand what this person is suffering out. And I also wrote about in the Jamaican Gleaner, one of the prominent newspapers there, about how Jamaica has a blind eye for those with disabilities, but they didn't publish it. So I realized that I'm outside of telling them what's wrong with them, and they aren't going to like to have that done. So I continually try to go and talk to people and try to see if we can get something for him, because he's there without meals, although somehow different people appear and they have a plate of food for him, and so he can at least get something to eat. He continues to write letters for jobs in the tech field because he was taught coding, and he has a amazing savant ability to deal with tech, but he is told, no, he's too old. He's 50 now, and he's too old. He didn't pass his high school exams because he's not capable. And yes, so I feel that I have done what I can besides praying and buoying him up. I helped talk him out to how many suicide attempts, and talk to various other people. but no one can recognize his plight that matches anything they know from the Bible or any other stories or any other people in that kind of condition. And so it's a dead end. And
So
so
what can you do? Is there something you can do to buoy yourself up so that you have more energy? Because I would think that it's kind of depleted you a little bit. You know, doing all the work you're doing and not being able to get your article published, et cetera, like that. Is there something you need that
Revitalize.
that can help you regain some energy to do something that is going to work?
well, one thing that I did say in our small group was that looking at the storytelling, I wondered if I could put his story into a storytelling and
Yes,
find find a group that would listen to me,
yes.
and
And maybe, you
that
know,
would.
an article just talking about him is more conducive to being printed than telling Puerto Rico that they need to do this, they need to do
Jamaica.
that, right? Or Jamaica.
Jamaica.
So that's a brilliant idea. You gonna do it? You gonna write a story?
thinking, I'm thinking more and more about the possibilities of it
Okay.
because I had thought of writing, but I don't have the time to really put out a good story. And
But you
his,
can start with an interview.
oh, you mean uh, put it
Ask
into
a
some
question.
kind,
Yeah, talk
uh-huh,
to him about his what's his story.
to record it.
Hmm.
Is that
Hmm.
what you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll give you the research you need for the final
Yeah.
product of a story.
Yeah. And find the gems in his life where he realizes that he's not alone. The fact people are bringing meals, there's community there. The fact that he has you, there's community there. So really polishing the gems that are already there, maybe hidden, maybe a little dull, but you know, a lot of times when you come to a place of gratitude, it helps brighten your
Shines
psyche.
those gems
You
up.
start realizing,
Yes.
wait a minute, I'm not alone. That I have, the gifts are there. The people are there. Let me look at
Yeah.
those.
So you're willing to do that?
Well, I think probably I am, and I think probably we are beginning to do something like that.
Good.
So I
All
would
right.
just strengthen it
Okay, we heard it
and go on
here.
from there.
We heard it here that you are going to begin recording his story.
All right.
Yay!
Thank you. All right. Great. All right. Anyone else like to share?
Well, piggybacking on some of the sharing that just occurred, um, I'm assigned to teach a course on racism. And um, I think that I would like the first part of the course to include introductions where people actually talk about their woundedness regarding race. And from there, we can respond to that woundedness with the different forms of racism and how we can transform that. So thank you. Yeah,
Great. And we
that's
can't see you. Who,
That's
where?
Jean. That's Ish.
Oh,
at
Ish.
City
Oh,
College. It's an
perfect.
introductory course.
Oh, okay. Ah, perfect. Well, you
Yeah,
know, Ish is the one that introduced us to storytelling.
Storytelling.
She was putting on a Quaker conference, and she's the one that said,
you,
Nancy and Robert, do you
it
tell
was in
stories?
you, and
Stories.
you
What's that?
doing it.
We looked at each one. Sure, it's a gig, huh?
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Let's get a gig.
And then afterwards we go, what's storytelling?
Yeah,
And
so
she's
So
our,
thank you for again inspiring me and to restructure what I was going to do in the beginning of the class to include the question about how we have been wounded and
Mhm.
share short vignettes about around the question of race and racism.
right.
right.
Naming the wounds is very important. Naming any monster. Yeah. Anyone else?
insights, discoveries she shares.
Well, I hope that all of you will continue this conversation with yourself or with someone else that you know, and that you will definitely commit yourself to somehow pulling yourself out of the resignation or the confusion or the depression and move towards having compassion be your way to move forward. Even compassion for yourself, that's really important. When sometimes we're the last ones to get it from ourselves. So,
And invite you to not do it alone. Really, that if you open your eyes, open your ears a little bit more, you'll in your heart, you'll see that there are people around you that have been on your side all the time. And so it's about community, just like in the story that Dana shared. There was the community of monks, or in the long hair, in the Bird of Happiness, she thought about her community. It was always that sense of connection.
now those are so important.
Yeah. So speaking of which, this is a community here. We have other programs that we're doing, but some of you are new to us, and we're new to you. So if you would like to put your name in the chat and an email, we can let you know what's going on next. And if I might share the next thing.
Next person, next August, we are going to do Linda Yamoto
And
as
let me
our
do a
guest
share
teller.
of what that is.
And this is Linda.
This is the just a slight working title here for next time online, Storytelling with Eth-Noh-Tec on August 25th, same time, same place. We'll present Mother Earth and Us, a fragile relationship. Now what? So we'll be featuring Linda, and in
and
fact,
can we
maybe we can
introduce
introduce Linda.
There she is.
So,
Wave to us, Linda.
say a few words.
All right.
Had trouble unmuting, of course. Yeah, I hope to see you all next month. I'm looking forward to telling with Robert and Nancy, and then we're going to be talking about our relationship with nature, and lots of different ideas on how we can, work toward a better situation.
Yeah. Make it more mutual than one-sided.
Yeah. She's being very
Our
shy, but
relationship.
she was also a proponent and organizer for a conference called Earth Up. It was part of the National Storytelling Network. And so, this title, environmental story, how would you, for people who have never heard an environmental story, what do you think are some of the elements that make a story an environmental story?
Well,
You want a teaser? Is that what's going on? Well, for me, it always has to do with nature education because I was a naturalist for so many years. So I always like to bring in some aspects of the natural world to teach people something about it. But then, there's also the story I'll be sharing next month is more about the fragility of the earth.
and talking about fragility, if any of you want to make a donation to Eth-Noh-Tec, that would be wonderful. We are at www.ethnohtec.org. And there's a PayPal link there.
We're not fragile, we're resilient.
No, we're not right. I was trying to do a segue. It didn't work. Okay.
And also, if you take a look in the chat, there's what Nancy just mentioned.
Oh, good. Thank you, Sarah. And I want to thank Sarah and thank Dana for her story and for being a wonderful person in Eth-Noh-Tec. And I wanted to thank all of you for being here. Yeah.
And speaking of Dana and holding that bright torch that has lit our way, if any of you know of people that could possibly hold that same bright torch as well as Dana did in being a manager with us, we have a position for you. So spread the word, get the word out, and we really can use it takes a village, as we say. We'd love to hear some.
If you know of anyone, probably in the Bay Area, so that they know other artist groups and stuff like that. So thank you so much. Anyone want to say one last thing? No?
Can I take you a photo so I can put in my Facebook?
Oh, good. You did already?
No,
No?
I am asking if I can take you a photo.
Oh,
yes.
Everybody, you willing to have your picture taken?
Sure.
For Maria? Okay, big smile of blessings and
That's right.
healing and happiness
Swallow the kale.
for Maria.
Okay,
There we
Thanks.
go.
thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Brett.
All right. Have a wonderful dinner.
Yeah. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you so
Bye.
much,
Thank you.
Robert and Nancy. You are the
Bye.
bee's
Thank you.
knees. You are the best. I love you.
Love
Yes,
you too,
you are
Rico.
great.
You're the best. Thank
Thank you.
you.